Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1 Joanne Davey. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. And during this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Stanley Robert Carrick. Stanley Carrick, known as Snowy, was born on the 21st of March 1894, the fourth son of James and Elizabeth Carrick of Hobart. His father worked as a painter there, and his mother ran a boarding house for a time. Snowy had 8 brothers and sisters, and like his father and at least one of his brothers, went on to become a painter. He was a member of the North Hobart Junior Football Club and was known and respected by a large circle of friends. Snowy Carrick tried to enlist in the first contingent of the Australian Imperial Force, but was turned down because of dental problems. He attempted again in February 1915 and this time was accepted as fit for service. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas in April 1915 on board the troopship Hororata. Private Carrick was posted to reinforcements to the 12th Battalion with his cousin Cyril Finch. They went first to Egypt and from there to Gallipoli, arriving in June 1915. Finch later wrote home to say, "We have taken part in several engagements since landing at the peninsula, the most important of which was just before I left. We made a charge at a place called Lone Pine. Our losses were pretty heavy, but we captured 3 trenches and succeeded in keeping the Turks back until fresh troops came to our assistance, when they got a lively time from our boys." Private Carrick remained on Gallipoli until the evacuation, and in January 1916 presented to hospital in Serapeum for dental treatment. He was sent to France the following May, spending several weeks at the base depot before rejoining his battalion on the battlefield in late July 1916. Days after he returned to the 12th Battalion, they took part in an attack to capture the French village of Pozières. In late August 1916, the 12th Battalion returned to the front line to attack Mouquet Farm, a fortified farmstead to the north of Pozières. On the 21st of August 1916, Private Cyril Finch was killed in action. Carrick wrote, "Poor fellow, I was not more than 20 yards away from him when he fell. I would have liked to have gone to him to render what assistance I could, but we were charging at the time and I could not stop." He added, "It will be a terrible blow to his poor mother, but I would like her to know that he died a hero and was respected by all in our company." Several weeks later, Carrick wrote to his mother to say, "I am in the best of health and spirits, and once more in the fighting line. The soldiering life is not all milk and honey to us boys, but I am pleased to say that I'm doing my duty, and I hope to be able to do so till this dreadful war is over." Although his health suffered during the bitterly cold winter of 1916 and 1917, Private Carrick remained with his battalion for months. He proved an able soldier, and in May 1917, after following up on the German retreat to the Hindenburg Line, he was promoted to corporal. Later that year, the 12th Battalion took part in operations around the Belgian town of Ypres, part of the British offensive known as the Third Battle of Ypres, or Passchendaele. In mid-December 1917, Corporal Carrick was granted leave to Paris and failed to return. He was apprehended in mid-January 1918 and found guilty of being absent without leave in a field court-martial. His sentence was to lose his non-commissioned rank and revert to the rank of private. Not long after Carrick returned to the 12th Battalion, the German army launched its great offensive of 1918. The 12th Battalion helped to stop the enemy's advance in a series of desperately fought battles. As the Germans outran their supply and communication lines, their advance slowed and was eventually stopped in each of the areas in which they had attacked. While waiting for the Allies to launch a counter-offensive, the Australians began to aggressively patrol the lines in front of them, often capturing prisoners and even ground, using a tactic that became known as peaceful penetration. On the 10th of May 1918, while the 12th Battalion were in the line near Merris, Private Carrick was a member of a party of 4 sent into no man's land. The commanding officer of the raid, Captain McLeod, was the first to return. He reported that Carrick and another man had been wounded and were crawling back. Carrick never returned. Some days later, when the 12th Battalion attacked across the same ground, they discovered Snowy Carrick's body. He was buried near where he fell and was later reinterred in Outer Seine communal cemetery extension in Bayeux. He was 24 years old. Stanley Carrick was sadly missed by his family in Tasmania, who put notices in the newspaper for years to commemorate the anniversary of his death. In 1922, his mother, brothers and sisters published a poem in his memory. It read, "A beautiful memory left behind of a loving son, so true and kind. I have lost, but heaven has gained one of the best the world could find. You are not forgotten, darling Stan, for true love never dies. The dearest spot on earth to us is where our dear son lies." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Stanley Robert Carrick, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.